I tell you, this IG report, if you haven't read it, you should read it. If you're an American citizen interested in understanding the coup, the criminal seditious conspiracy against President Trump, then the IG report on James Comey's mishandling of Trump's FBI files, it's essential reading. It's only 70-something pages. You can read it in one sitting, and it details not just his mishandling of documents, and I know the focus has been on that, whether he'd be prosecuted for that, he should have been, but it also highlights why he was creating the documents to begin with, which is the big news. It was all designed to destroy Donald Trump. It was all part of this coup cabal that was developed during the Obama administration at the most senior levels, and I mean Barack Obama, and continued into the Trump administration. Just incredible information here. And I want to talk first about the IG's conclusions on the what Comey did, because I think it's important to get the specifics out, because James Comey, who is continuing to lie and mislead about his conduct, is out there saying this report somehow exonerates him. It doesn't. It excoriates him for his mishandling of Donald Trump's FBI files. Just to be clear, he took Donald Trump's FBI files, kept them in his home. It included classified information. He was lying about whether he had that information. He leaked some of that information to the New York Times specifically to get Robert Mueller appointed. He took Donald Trump's FBI files and leaked them as part of a vendetta against him to get back at him for having fired him. That's pretty clear. And the IG report has gotten into the details, confirming a lot of what Judicial Watch has already uncovered, doing the work of the IG. We didn't need the seemingly never-ending period of time the IG took to take this, to investigate this. There was only 20 witnesses. They could have done this in a heartbeat, but instead it took nearly a year. As described in today's report, I'm going to read you from the release the IG put out. So it's not Judicial Watch criticizing Comey. It's not President Trump criticizing Comey. This is the IG of the Justice Department. By the way, an appointee of President Obama criticizing Comey. The OIG concluded that the memos were official FBI records. The IG determined that Comey violated applicable policies and his FBI employment agreement by providing one of the unclassified memos that contained official FBI information, including sensitive investigative information, to his friend with instructions for the friend to share the contents of the memo with a reporter. Additionally, the OIG determined that Comey, while FBI director, kept copies of 4 of the 7 memos in a personal safe at his home, and after his removal as FBI director, violated FBI's policies and FBI employment agreement by failing to notify the FBI that he retained them, or to seek authorization to retain them. Comey likewise violated applicable policies in his FBI employment agreement by providing copies following his removal as FBI director of the 4 memos he had kept in his home to 3 private attorneys without FBI authorization. Comey also failed to fulfill his obligations to immediately alert the FBI about his disclosures to his private attorneys once he became aware that the FBI, after Comey's removal, had determined that one of the memos included several words, the names of foreign countries being discussed by the president, that were classified at the confidential level. So here you have the details of Comey breaking every rule in the book, both as FBI director and as fired FBI director. Now the outrage is here, he's talking, the IG is, about his violations of FBI rules and procedures. The process was, according to the IG, is that he had shared, and I want to get specific here because this shows you the failures of the Justice Department in this regard. Upon completion of our investigation, pursuant to the law, I'm going to paraphrase, The OIG provided a copy of its factual findings to the department for a prosecutorial decision regarding Comey's conduct. After reviewing the matter, the department declined prosecution. Thereafter, we prepared this report to consider whether Comey's actions violated department or FBI policy or the terms of Comey's employment agreement. So they found facts warranting a referral to the Justice Department for a criminal prosecution of the fired FBI director, and the Justice Department, under the leadership of Attorney General Barr, declined to prosecute. That is beyond belief. It is beyond belief. So this IG report is necessarily weak tea because it doesn't get into the criminal aspects of what Comey did. It talks about the violations of rules and procedures related to the handling of classified information, FBI information, federal records. But the crimes are legion, and to me, it's outrageous that the Justice Department declined prosecution. I tell you, and this is par for the course from the Justice Department. It was in April of last year, I believe, that the IG detailed the sham Clinton email investigation, the text messages between Strzok and Page demonstrating political bias in the Russia investigation, and specifically a referral was made about Andrew McCabe, the number 2 of the FBI under Comey, Comey's crony. And as of this week, the news was out there that they're, quote, close to deciding whether to prosecute him or not. Are you kidding me? It's been 18 months. Not one prosecution. And then it's announced this week, the DOJ, it's confirmed this week because they've been reporting that they didn't want to prosecute Comey, that they're they're not going to do anything on Comey's misconduct. And the news about McCabe, and I guess their thinking is about Comey, is that, well, you know, in D.C. there are a lot of Democrats, so we can't trust those Democratic jurors to follow the law. That's bunk. That's excuse making. These are American citizens, and juries, in my experience, and it's not a perfect process, are more than capable of putting aside their political biases to apply the law in a neutral manner. I trust a jury in D.C. over the corrupt FBI leadership that Comey was running, or the Mueller operations decision-making on prosecutions. They blame the jury pool as to whether or not the delay in prosecuting McCabe. And I'll get into the criminal aspects of the Comey issue in a minute. I want to go into some more detail on this report because it details, and the focus has been on the as I say, the release of the memos. You can see that in the release I read to you. But the big deal is, it confirms the coup against Trump, and that Comey was spying on Trump. Well, the reason he was writing the memos was to create a record so that he could destroy him. I'm paraphrasing, admittedly, but that's pretty clear what was going on. The first big memo he wrote was over his January meeting when he was president-elect in Trump Tower, where he ambushed him with the dossier that he knew was salacious and unverified. I'm quoting Comey. And they've been lying to us. And we knew they've been lying because if you've watched us, we tell you what the lies are. As I said, I've always been calling it an ambush. They're pretending they needed to brief him to give him a heads up because of a pending leak. I mean, it's just gobbledygook talk. Criminals trying to justify their criminality. This report confirms they went in to confront him with that ambush interview because they were trying to make a case against him. You had the FBI director under Obama playing spy. We're talking about spying on the Trump campaign, spying on President-elect Trump, spying on President Trump. Comey was the chief spy, and he was designated as such by Barack Obama because they met about this very issue a day or two before in the Oval Office with Barack Obama, Biden, Susan Rice, all the king's horses, all the king's men in there. And Comey was the go-to guy. And I want to read you, because the liberal media doesn't care about this. They don't care about the attempt to destroy our republic because they were part of it. Forgive me for getting a little heated here, but this is our country we're talking about. Comey's first one-on-one meeting with Trump occurred on January 6, 2017 at Trump Tower as part of the briefing the president-elect on the Intelligence Committee assessment, the one that you shouldn't really trust, on Russia efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. The first part of the briefing, and I'm cutting through some of this, jointly conducted by the intelligence community directors, involved briefing the president-elect on the overall conclusions of the ICA. The second part of the briefing concerned notifying the president-elect, quote, of salacious and unverified, and that's in quotes, information about Trump's alleged conduct in Moscow several years earlier. Before briefing President-elect Trump, Comey met with senior leaders of the FBI, including his chief of staff, James Comey, then FBI Director Andrew McCabe, FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, then FBI General Counsel James Baker, and the supervisors of the FBI's investigation of Russian interference with the 2016 presidential election, which would have included Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, the anti-Trump activists who were lovers at the time. Baker and McCabe told the OIG they had raised and discussed with Comey a number of concerns about Comey meeting alone with President-elect Trump. They did not want the president-elect to perceive the one-on-one briefing as an effort to hold information over him like a Hoover-esque type of plot. Well, it's exactly what they were doing, but they didn't want it to be seen like that. Witnesses interviewed by the OIG said they discussed Trump's potential responses as being told about the salacious information, including that Trump might make statements about or provide information of value to the pending Russia interference investigation. They were going in there to spy on him. As for all practical purposes, Comey may as well have been wearing a wire. That FBI counterintelligence investigation, known as Crossfire Hurricane, concerned whether individuals associated with the Trump campaign during the 2016 presidential election was coordinating with or had been unwittingly co-opted by the Russian government. They already knew at the time that was not true, guys. They already knew. It was all based on this dossier that they knew, quote, was salacious and unverified. Nothing was backing it up. I have the 302s, or Judicial Watch does. I've talked about them. We just got them that show none of it was panning out. That's why the FBI was desperate to try to talk to Steele. It wasn't panning out. And they knew it was based on a material created by someone who was desperate, quote, desperate to stop Trump. And yet they took this garbage material that they knew wasn't true and went and confronted the president-elect with it. Why? Because the Clinton gang, and I guarantee you, the Comey-Obama gang was leaking it. And they knew it was going to come out. Everyone knew it was going to come out. But that was a pretext because they wanted to get his reaction as the target of this unprecedented, illegal, illicit spy operation. The coup. Multiple FBI witnesses recalled agreeing ahead of time that Comey should memorialize his meeting with Trump immediately after it occurred. Comey told the IG that in his view it was important for the FBI executive managers, quote, to be able to share in Comey's recall of the salient details of these conversations, unquote. Comey also said that an additional concern shared by members of his management team, his cronies, the corrupt cronies around him. I tell you, Comey, that leadership of the FBI was the most corrupt element of government in American history. There never was before so many corrupt officials in one place in one sensitive agency. God blessed us in allowing us to get through that burden of having those people there. Comey also said that, I'm going to read it again. Comey also said that the additional concern shared by members of his management team was that if the briefing became, quote, a source of controversy, it would be important to have a clear contemporaneous record because Trump might, quote, misrepresent what happened in the encounter, unquote. Why would they think that? Because they hated him. He's the newly elected president, and they go in thinking we're going to create a record. Because we predict there's going to be a matter of controversy? No, 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 no. They wanted to have a record to try to destroy him when push came to shove. McCabe told the OIG that, in his view, it made sense for Comey to, quote, capture his contemporaneous recollection because there were, quote, millions of ways that the FBI could get follow-up questions or criticism, and Comey wanted to recollect exactly from his perspective how it had taken place. Comey told the IG he began writing Memo 1, this is the first improper memo, immediately following his meeting with Trump on January 6, 2017. Comey said he was meeting up in Trump Tower, just envision New York, and Trump Tower. So he comes down from the lobby, he goes into an FBI car. Comey said he had a secure FBI laptop waiting for him in his FBI vehicle, and that when he got into the vehicle, he was handed the laptop and began typing Memo 1 as the vehicle moved. He said he continued working on Memo 1 until he arrived at the FBI's New York field office, where Comey gave a quick download of his conversation with President-elect Trump to Ribicki, McCabe, Baker, and supervisors. There's you got your Obama OIG keeping Page and Strzok out of it, of the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigative team via secure video teleconference. This was a setup. He goes in there, confronts Trump with this memo, with this fraud dossier. Trump says it's garbage. Comey runs downstairs, types his memo, and runs back to the FBI and has a video conference. Talk about dishonest dealings with the President of the United States, or the President-elect. And of course, this colored all of his memos with President Trump, memos detailing President Trump's conversations. He was creating these contemporaneous records, supposedly, and I don't believe that necessarily, detailing the president's conversations, and I don't believe he fairly detailed them, creating a secret file on the president. They don't even, the idea that the FBI director would result to such mendacity is just, it's inconceivable. The president was so right to fire Comey, but as this material comes out, he was righter than he even knew. He was righter than he even knew. And if you could give the president a medal for doing something, he should get a medal for firing Comey. And so you've got this coup cabal detailed, the operations, and the Justice Department doesn't want to do anything about it. No prosecution based on this dishonesty. And so I talked to you about the FBI report we received, the 302s, or the narrative, the reports about the FBI having to go to Comey's house and get these memos. And that report, he didn't tell them, because the report shows what he told them, that he had leaked them to his lawyers, or quote his friend. The friend who leaked it, the one friend he leaked one of the memos to, he's after the fact decided it was his quote lawyer. You can't leak information, classified or otherwise, that you're not entitled to without permission of the FBI. And if it's classified, you probably can't get permission at all. But he didn't tell them that. And the report details, so they take the records, and I'm really summarizing, because there are other crimes he committed in terms of not withholding material information from FBI investigators. So the day after that meeting, he testifies to Congress. The senior leadership of the FBI is watching this. Baker and Strzok are watching this. And he says, I gave this to my friend. And they immediately know who the friend is, because evidently everyone knows who Comey's designated leaker is. And the FBI General Counsel recounts to the IG. He says, I recall literally running down the hallway with Peter Strzok to call this guy, Richmond, saying, and they essentially say, you got classified information on your system, we got to go get it. Now, I tell you what, if you were in this situation where the FBI met with you and said, you gave us all the documents, and you say, yeah, but you didn't tell them you shared those documents, some of which were classified, all of which you couldn't properly share with outsiders, and they find out about it, the day after, you know what would have happened to you? You would have been arrested. They would have gone to your house and arrested you, obtained a search warrant for your premises and everything you owned to make sure that you had turned over everything and found out what you really did. But he was protected back in 2017. He was protected in 2017 and outrageously protected by the Justice Department now. I don't know what Attorney General Barr is thinking in not prosecuting this case. They say it was not even a close call. What surprised me about this report is that there are no gray areas. Comey committed so many crimes it's hard to keep track of. And if they can't make a case on Comey stealing and leaking the president's FBI files, just cut through all the chaff, and that's what it is. Chaff. The FBI director stole and leaked the president's FBI files to, quote, advance his personal agenda, according to the OIG. And they can't make a criminal case out of that? Now we're being told the next IG report's going to be really smoking, and I'm sure it will be. But if you think they won't prosecute Comey on this, that they will make a more complex prosecutorial case related to FISA-Gate fraud that we've known about, by the way, for 2 years, you're whistling past the graveyard. If I were the president, I'd sue Comey. I'd sue the whole lot of them. And the lawyers out there, you can think of claims the president could bring. Justice Department is going to do the job. And I think Barr, every time he says something publicly, I think what he says usually is pretty straightforward and on mark and on point, especially on this Russiagate thing. I do not understand his decision-making here. I disagree with it, and he should reconsider his decision. The Attorney General of the United States should reconsider his decision to allow James Comey to violate the law with impunity, violate the rights of the president, impair the functionings of government, destroy the reputation of the FBI. What does this tell everyone else who works in government, who is supposed to protect classified and sensitive information? A, it suggests you might get away with misconduct, or B, it suggests that unless you're connected, you will get away with misconduct. And this shows you that, and I know I'm expressing frustration, but this is why we do the work we do at Judicial Watch. Because the Justice Department has been out to lunch on these major corruption issues for a generation. A generation. And Barr is a good man, but I think he fails to appreciate the ethical destruction of the Justice Department that has occurred over the decades. The FBI? Who's the FBI director? Quick, you probably don't know. It's Christopher Wray. You might as well have Comey running the FBI for all of Wray's insistence on cover-up, excuse-making, and placing the interests of the FBI above the interests of the American people. But thank God for Judicial Watch, because we're getting documents out on Comey's misconduct. We got the FISA warrant documents out. We got the documents showing that the FBI was corruptly working with Christopher Steele and the Clinton spies. We got the information out showing the FBI was coordinating with the Clinton lawyers on both her emails and Russiagate. Top lawyers for the FBI working with top lawyers for Hillary Clinton on emails and Russiagate. Can you believe it? We're suing in court time and time again to get the information. We just got the big Bruce Orr 302s. Bruce Orr, the senior Justice Department official, working with the FBI to get his wife's Nellie's dossier garbage into the Justice Department files. This is the garbage that they confronted the president-elect with, President Trump. Judicial Watch exposed it through litigation, not by a voluntary disclosure through the office. We don't know anything that the OIG has. There are a few documents he attached. Judicial Watch is the only one getting the information now. We're in crisis. I love Judicial Watch, but it's crazy that we're the only ones doing it. It's absolutely insane. So when I get excited, I'm excited because I'm worried about the country. I'm worried about our government. The president suffered a coup attack, which I believe is continuing through the harassment on Capitol Hill, where they are trying to rehash the abusive Mueller investigation with probably nearly 100 subpoenas, distracting the president or attempting to distract the president. It's the next phase of the coup. And as far as I'm concerned, there's virtually no one in government, with all due respect to everyone out there, who wants to do something significant about it. But the president obviously is his own best advocate in this regard, but he's a lonely man in the administration in terms of his concern about the audacity and criminality of the coup. He uses strong words like treason. I suggest seditious conspiracy. I think treason may fit as well. Does anyone in the Justice Department think that like that? I don't know. They've got evidence of a criminal seditious conspiracy here, and they decline prosecution. And I will be pleasantly surprised in a dramatic way if there are prosecutions related to the FISA-gate fraud or anything else.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.